In the opening scene, we see a pair of truckers, Luke and Joseph, who are transporting canisters filled with a biohazardous substance from the Mamaroneck Medical Research Facility. During their journey, they are chatting, and suddenly a deer comes in front of their truck, and they accidentally collide with the deer on the road. The force of the impact dislodges one of the biohazard canisters, causing it to tumble into the nearby river. Drifting along the river's current, the canister eventually becomes ensnared in a beaver dam. As it settles, the canister begins to leak a vivid green fluid. Next, we see three girls, Mary, Zoe, and Jen, set out on a weekend trip to the town of Ashwood. They plan on staying at Mary's cousin's house. However, Jen, burdened by the recent discovery that her boyfriend Sam has been unfaithful, carries a heavy heart. Sensing Jen's need for support during this challenging time, Mary and Zoe organize the trip as a means of helping Jen recover and find solace. The house where they are staying overlooks a picturesque lake, complete with a prominent beaver dam. Adjacent to the lake lies the river into which the biohazard canister had fallen. Separating the river from the lake is an isthmus. As they arrive, they are greeted by the old lady who lives next door. Jen and Zoe quickly discover that they have no cell phone reception, leaving them cut off from outside communication. Despite Zoe and Jen's distress over the lack of cell phone coverage, Mary remains steadfast in her decision. She asserts that the next 2 days should be dedicated to disconnecting from technology and avoiding distractions from the boys. Mary reassures them that there is a landline connection available in case of any emergencies or issues. The girls decide to take a swim in the serene waters of the lake. As they enjoy the refreshing dip, they stumble upon the impressive beaver dam. Intrigued by the wildlife, Jen eagerly approaches the dam in hopes of catching a glimpse of a beaver. To her surprise, she notices another beaver dam further downstream in the river, the very river where the biohazard canister had ended up. Mary pieces together the puzzle, realizing that it's likely the same beavers are responsible for constructing both dams. While exploring the area, the girls unexpectedly encounter a bear. Before any harm befalls them, they are rescued by a rugged man named Smith. Smith is a seasoned redneck. He warns them to steer clear of the beavers and advises them to dress more appropriately. Later that night, Tommy, Mary's boyfriend, and Buck, Zoe's boyfriend, along with Sam, unexpectedly arrive at the house to surprise the girls. Tensions rise as Mary, feeling annoyed, commands them to leave. However, Zoe, who had prior knowledge of their arrival, firmly insists that they stay. Despite Mary's initial resistance, Jen persuades her to reconsider, expressing her desire to address her relationship issues with Sam, who has betrayed her trust by cheating on her. Initially taken aback, Mary hesitantly invites the guys inside after Jen expresses her willingness to have Sam there. Tommy and Mary discreetly slip away to spend some intimate time together, while Buck and Zoe retreat to their bedroom for a similar purpose. Meanwhile, Jen heads to the bathroom to take a shower. However, her peaceful moment is abruptly shattered when she is viciously attacked by a beaver while in the shower. Upon hearing Jen's screams, Tommy rushes into the bathroom and quickly dispatches the attacking beaver with a baseball bat. Jen and Mary, startled by the encounter, notice something odd about the beaver. It lacks pupils in its eyes. Suspicious of this abnormality, they sense that there may be something wrong with the creature. In a desperate attempt to rid themselves of the corpse, they place it in a bag and leave it outside on the porch overnight. However, when they wake up the following day in the morning, they are horrified to find that the corpse is missing. Despite the possibility of it being consumed by wildlife, Jen is adamant that something more sinister is at play. The group decides to go out for a swim in the lake. However, Jen, still shaken from the traumatic encounter with the beaver in the shower, opts to stay behind, unable to shake off her fear. Unbeknownst to Tommy and Jen, the rest of the group is aware that Sam betrayed Jen by cheating on her with Mary. Despite this knowledge, they continue to keep the secret from Tommy and Jen. As Sam and Mary talk about whether to tell Jen about their affair, chaos erupts when the aggressive beavers suddenly attack them. Buck falls victim to the ferocious creatures, losing a foot in the brutal assault, while Tommy gets scratched as they hurry onto a raft. In a terrifying turn of events, The same relentless beaver that had previously attacked Jen returns to pursue her, driving her back towards the house. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Jen bravely confronts the menacing creature, pinning it to the counter with a knife in a desperate bid for survival. However, the confrontation is not without its consequences, as the beaver manages to scratch her leg before being subdued. Meanwhile, the raft comes under the attack of beavers, and they tear through it. Amidst the chaos, Sam resorts to a desperate tactic, throwing Zoe's dog into the water as a diversion to distract the pursuing beaver. Seizing the opportunity, the rest of the group hastily retreats to the confines of the house, seeking refuge from the relentless onslaught of the zombified beavers. Upon reaching the perceived safety of the house, they are met with a grim realization. The cunning beavers have severed the phone lines, leaving the group stranded with no means of communication with the outside world. As the terrifying threat of zombie beavers or zombivers intensifies, the group finds themselves trapped within the house as beavers surround it. With Buck's condition rapidly deteriorating from the loss of blood, Tommy makes the difficult decision to take him to the hospital using Mary's car, accompanied by Mary and Zoe. However, the cunning zombivers, determined to prevent their escape, topple a tree to block the road. Tommy bravely ventures out on foot in search of assistance, but tragedy strikes when he is crushed beneath a falling tree because of zombivers. Amidst the chaos, Smith arrives just in time to offer his aid. Recognizing the dire situation, he agrees to assist Zoe and Buck in returning to the safety of the house, using his truck. In a desperate bid to keep the relentless zombivers at bay, Mary, Sam, and Jen hastily barricade all the windows and doors with wood, sealing themselves inside the house. Tragically, their efforts inadvertently prevent Zoe, Smith, and Buck from entering the house upon their return. Left with no other choice, Zoe and her group seek refuge at the neighboring house of Winston Gregorson and his wife Mian. However, upon arrival, they discover the grim fate that has befallen the Gregorsons. They are both found dead. Adding to their despair, they realize that the landline at the Gregorsons' house has also been destroyed by the zombivers. Jen's fate takes a terrifying turn as the scratch from the zombiver begins to transform her into a grotesque hybrid creature. With each passing moment, Jen's body undergoes a horrifying change, sprouting a tail and elongating teeth like a beaver's. Jen attacks Mary with savage ferocity. In the chaos, some of Jen's saliva falls into Mary's mouth. Acting swiftly, Sam intervenes to save Mary, delivering a decisive blow to Jen from behind. Mary and Sam retreat to the safety of a locked room, where they are left to confront the horrifying truth that anyone bitten or scratched by the zombivers becomes one of the savage beaver-zombie hybrids. In a desperate bid for safety, Mary and Sam barricade themselves in the bathroom, taking precautionary measures to check each other for any signs of scratches or wounds. Assured that neither of them is injured, they begin to seek solace in each other's company, succumbing to their primal desires. However, their intimate moment is abruptly interrupted when Jen, consumed by the horrific transformation overtaking her, bursts into the bathroom. In a shocking and violent turn of events, Jen launches a savage attack on Sam, ruthlessly biting off his manhood. As chaos reigns at the Gregorsons' house, Buck succumbs to the same fate as Jen and transforms into a zombiver. He mercilessly attacks Smith, ending the brave man's life. Zoe finds herself in a desperate struggle for survival as Buck turns his attention to her. In a harrowing escape attempt, Zoe locks herself inside the Gregorsons' bedroom, only to encounter the zombified Mian, who has fallen victim to the same fate as her husband. With no other options left, Zoe leaps out of the window in a bid to evade her fate. However, the impact renders her unconscious. Meanwhile, back at the other house, a horrifying accident occurs as one of the zombiver inadvertently ignites a fire that engulfs Mary's cousin's house. As the flames rage, consuming everything in their path, Sam rises as a zombie, and Mary is forced to end his torment with a decisive blow. As Zoe makes a daring return to the besieged house in Smith's truck to help Mary, they encounter a horrifying sight. Smith, now transformed into a zombiver, mercilessly opens fire on their vehicle. Miraculously, Zoe and Mary narrowly escape the attack, but their problem is far from over. Jen, now a monstrous beaver-zombie hybrid, attempts to leap onto the top of the truck. However, Zoe runs her over in a desperate bid to save herself and Mary. Zoe and Mary find themselves at the road blocked by a fallen tree where their friend Tommy died. With no other options left, they resolve to continue on foot. However, Mary begins to harbor suspicions that Zoe may have been bitten due to her bloody appearance. Mary points a gun that she found in Smith's truck at Zoe, but she herself starts to change into a zombiever because of Jen's saliva falling in her mouth. As Mary's transformation into a zombie begins, Zoe is faced with a heart-wrenching decision. However, before she can act, Mary succumbs to the transformation, leaving Zoe with no choice but to end her suffering with a devastating blow from an axe. With heavy steps, Zoe walks away from the carnage, leaving behind the horrors of the night. On the desolate road, her journey takes a final, tragic turn as the very truckers responsible for unleashing the nightmare inadvertently run her over. In a chilling post-credits scene, a lone bee lands on the carcass of one of the fallen zombies. The bee becomes infected with the same zombifying agent, flying away to its hive, foreshadowing the terrifying spread of the apocalypse into the unsuspecting natural world, and the movie ends here.